Could you tell us a little bit about what it was like bringing the world of Dominion to life?
In terms of kind of
like imagining it, like
imagining it. Well, for me, when I watched the movie Legion, I mean, the relationship between the two archangels and the baby were like, for me, that was a TV show.
Right.
The idea that you jump ahead in time, the baby is grown up now, what are those archangels doing, what's the baby doing, all those what-if questions were really how I kind of created Dominion. And then from there, just building out like who would survive that war, who would kind of become the leaders, and how would they shape these kind of outposts of humanity, basically. And so it really started there for me, and that was the process. A lot of brainstorming, a lot of just throwing stuff at the wall. And I had this giant poster in my office where I literally just, as soon as I had a new character, like Gemma Rice or whatever, then I would just grow it from there and ask a lot of questions.
You have basically two storylines kind of going on. You have the politics of the city, and then you have the kind of Messiah story, religious storyline. They're kind of interweaving. Is there a preference that you have, or which is one of them going to take more dominance than the other?
I think, for me, it's like the two stories are kind of equally interesting, and since they dovetail into one another in terms of Claire's relationship with Alex, her relationship with her father's relationship with David Wheel, Tony Head, they have a nice balance. I think as we go forward in series, especially after this season, I think you'll see it start to split off a little more, but they're equally juicy to write to, so I think they're both important.
Vaun, I just wanted to ask, as the series continues, how do you plan on giving viewers a reason to embrace Dominion as opposed to fan favourite Supernatural, which has already kind of exhausted angels and demons and that kind of realm? So, yeah.
I actually don't think angels are exhausted. Maybe, I think that that world and the stuff that we'll introduce in future seasons, I think will be really riveting for people who enjoy, the genre part of it. But in terms of bringing people to Dominion, holding the audience, I think it's all about just great characters. And so that's why the politics, the relationships, some of the soapier aspects of the show are also, I think, a big draw for Dominion, not just kind of the cool, badass angels.
Which are pretty rad.
How far out do you have ideas for?
When I sold the series, I did basically a 40-page series Bible, and I broke out the first 3 seasons in great detail, and then maybe another 2 seasons after that in kind of lesser detail, so a lot. Tons of ideas.
And what inspired you to place Vegas as Vega as their central location?
It's all of the housing. I just imagine, in a post-apocalyptic world, and I didn't want it to be bleak. I want it to still be vibrant. So many of these shows are so many of these stories are so, they're so kind of dark and depressing. You almost don't want to live there. I wanted it to be an exciting place, and Vegas is an exciting place. But really the housing and also kind of the irony, the fact that Sin City becomes the last bastion of humanity, that was definitely a draw for it.
Can you talk about casting Ellen and Chris?
And how did it come about?
Yeah, and what the why they put
Chris really was one of my first ideas for the character of Alex. He was right at the top of the list. I think for me, Chris embodies this kind of humanity in a very kind of heroic, charismatic way. I loved him in Kings. I loved him in Letters to Juliet. Even I really loved him in all this movie he's done. And there's a naturalness to the way he performs that for me, that character needed that real humanness, especially when you were kind of contrasting it against the colder, more removed Michael. So he was always my dream guy. Alan came in and auditioned, and I was a huge fan of Alan from the OC and from Lost. So I was as soon as I saw him, I was like, oh, with that voice, and, he just seems like a general. He's that guy. So he was perfect fit.
Can you give us any hints on what to expect for the rest of season 1?
There are some really big kind of moves that are going to happen in the next couple episodes. One of which is going to be not everybody's going to make it out alive. That's going to be big.
No, it's right. Well, I was just going to say, do you feel any constraint having the movie as source material, or does that kind of help the process along?
It really, for me, again, it was just the two Archangels and the baby and a group from there. I don't feel constrained by it at all. Dominion is really its own thing. We called it Dominion, we didn't call it Legion. It really is its own, even though it owes kind of that as the foundation, that was a launching off point. But in terms of feeling constrained by the movie, no.
Any word on season 2?
Not yet. Hopefully. If you hear something, let me know.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
guys.